a small group of individuals. So I'm going to share those two pieces with you tonight. All right, so on July, we did this, what we call a pilot study, where we just invited a few people. Like we invited 20. 19 actually were able to give, consented and gave a sample. But we did this in July of 23. So it's 5 months after the derailment. And we invited people who were in our survey, in our study population, that didn't smoke and lived about just a mile away. Because we didn't want to measure chemicals from tobacco. We know that's there. So we didn't want that interfering. And we also wanted to look at people who perhaps could have been, most likely, exposed to Haynes. So those are who we invited. We only invited about 20. So the University of Kentucky, we have a great lab that measures immune markers. And then we sent the urine samples to Wayne State University. They were brave enough to do it. Because I think I'm going to talk about the immune markers first, just a little bit. But first, let me tell you what immune markers actually look like. And maybe you've heard of people with asthma and allergies. You've heard maybe the word cytokines. IL-6, I don't know, if you go to the doctor and you have an allergy, they may say one of these is raised in your system. But these immune markers, there's like an interferon N dash to gamma Y. These all mean something. And they mean something to the physician who's looking at them. And so when you translate them, they turn into inflammatory cytokines. So there's an inflammatory reaction. There's growth factors, meaning there's tissue repair. Something is damaged and it's being repaired. And then the last one also has chronic inflammation and tissue repair. So it's like in the bodies of those 20 people, there was an increase in inflammation compared to a group in California. So you had to have somebody to compare it to. And the best they had in the laboratory was a group in California. So it indicated that there was this chronic low-grade inflammation and tissue repair. And inflammation, when you have that in your body, it can affect every organ, every body system. So it's of concern because it's like, okay, what's going to be impacted next? And we don't know, but that's why we're really excited to keep studying and looking further into this. So now I'm I mentioned it to my research team. I was like, I'm going to jump into the urine now. I thought that was funny. I thought, hey, I'll just say that there. Because I just didn't, I was like, okay, I'm going to jump into the urine story. So this is the urine story. We measured chemicals that were previously discussed by our colleagues, the acrolein. So I'm going to show you these slides. I tried to make it as easy to understand as possible. So this is a metabolite of acrolein. So if you're exposed to acrolein, you don't, when you urinate and you pee, it doesn't come out as that chemical. It comes out as something different. But we know that it came from that parent chemical. It's metabolized, it's its own little thing. And the abbreviation for that metabolite is some big long word, but the abbreviation is CENA. So that's the name of that metabolite. And we looked at the percent detected. Now, I want to say first, percent detected means that that's the level that the laboratory instrument could measure, could actually see it and say, yes, it's there. And these levels were not high, but I just wanted to show you that what was detected, and I find this to be interesting. So in East Palestine, 19 people in their urine, all of them were detected. But in the CDC study, that's a national, United States-based population, and there's 1,000 people in there. And they also all had it. Because I see it with East Palestine, I'd be like, oh my, is this something important? Is this, should we be jumping on this? But we looked at a comparison, national levels, and they were all also 100% detected. And I will say that their levels were lower than what they were in the national, so that was good. In Marietta, so we had a comparison group. Marietta is a community I've worked with before on the repair of the Haynes refinery there. And we asked them to participate, and they were more than happy to. So you have friends in Marietta who are willing to give their blood and urine to compare with yours. Yeah, they're good people there. And only 92% were detected in Marietta. All right. So I'm going to move to, there's another metabolite for acrolein, and that was called 3-HPNA. And so you can see the difference. This metabolite, it was everybody in East Palestine, but only the 19, so we need to do it on a bigger scale. The 19, it was detected in the CDC national study, 93%. And in Marietta, 92%. So fairly similar. All right, I'm going to move to the acrylates. So in the CDC, this is the acrylate, the name of it in the metabolite is BUANA. And no, the CDC doesn't even measure this chemical. This is not something that's standard, off the shelf, everybody does it. So Wayne State, when I said they were brave, I really mean it, because they did this analysis for us, for you, to measure this in the urine. And because the CDC does not even have this in their list. Marietta, nobody had it in their system. But in East Palestine, out of the 19, 5%, which is a very low number of 19, but a few people had it detected. This is 5 months after the derailment. All right, this is the one I found most interesting, so I saved it to the end. And this is the vinyl chloride metabolite. Now, when people, I remember, I was reading the news, and many people would go to LabCorp, right? And there was a metabolite that was measured from LabCorp. Well, we looked into that metabolite, and you could see it came from it's not just vinyl chloride, it came from many other sources. Some are even natural sources. This one, however, comes from potentially 3 chemicals: vinyl chloride, ethyl oxide, or acrylonitrile. And the abbreviation is HEMA, H-E-M-A. So in the CDC study, only 5% of 1,000 people had it detected in their system. In Marietta, nobody had it. But in East Palestine, 74% of the 19 people had it detected in their system. So this is 5 months later. The half-life, so we also think, when you think about these chemicals and how fast do they metabolize, the question is, well, how long does it last in the body? In this case, maybe a couple days, 1 to 2 days. So that begs questions, I'm sure in your head, and it doesn't in mine. Where did it come from? 5 months after the derailment and after the burn. Was it still in the environment? Was it potentially stored in the body and then re-released? So during this process of thinking about it, I've learned, and I did not know this before, that these VOCs, the volatile organic compounds, they can be stored. In fact, I did not know that. So it's possible that they could have been stored and re-released. Maybe some of these individuals were all on a diet, losing fat. Who knows, or it was still in the environment. So we have a question, I don't know, but I just found it interesting that it was there. Now again, the levels were very low, but it was still detected. Now, did we need to do this urine testing to say there was an exposure to vinyl chloride? No, we know it was there. It was there in your air. There's no question. We saw the visuals. But this is just kind of, it was just like, we need to be able to see if we can measure it in the body. If it's still there 5 months later, let's just see. And this demonstrates that it was. All right, so just for fun, I know science doesn't have fun. We did. We did a little fun thing. The staff, there were 4 of us. And one of the staff members lives in Rogers. And another lives in Marietta. And then, I pulled all from my team, and then 2 of us came from like Cincinnati, Kentucky area. So we thought, hey, since we're hearing that maybe chemicals could still be in the air, why don't we collect on ourselves the day we get there, and then the day we leave. We were there about 2 days, right? So we just thought, let's just see what it looks like. So I'm just going to show you the one that it was detected in. That we found it, and it was the same chemical here, the vinyl chloride, ethyl oxide potential, the HEMA. And when we first arrived, and there's only 4 of us, but half of us had it in our system. On day 2, everybody did. And I'm one of those, and I was a participant in this staff study because I was here. We were doing this component together. All right, so I just wanted to share that. And that's not been shared publicly before, but I wanted you to have it first before it went somewhere else. So key takeaways, the immune markers, it looks like there's tissue repair going on at that time. Again, this was simply in July. I don't know what's going on now. We need to do more. Chronic inflammation. And this can increase your risk for major diseases, heart disease, stroke, cancer, autoimmune disorders. And we need to measure more. I just can't repeat that enough. And in the metabolites, it's just fascinating that even 5 months later, the vinyl chloride was detected, and then the one participant had the butyl-acrylate measured in their system. So I wanted to just end with that, give you the urine. I jumped into the urine, I gave it to you. I found that very interesting. I think if we were to come into town and measure again, we probably wouldn't focus on that measure, but I thought it was important initially. So a reminder again, all of the other data are back there in the back, the fact sheets. You could also scan here.